Today is Monday, August 12th, 2024. This is episode 142 of The Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
From Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Nika Montfort.
And also out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. Brother Drone. I made an impulse buy this weekend and bought a drone. This would be my second drone. Not that I have two, but I bought one, used it for like a week, and then sold it. This is like pre-COVID. I wish I would have kept it through COVID, but I was like, I didn't give enough time to it. I flew it around my house. I went to a park and flew it, and then that's about it. I didn't have time, or I didn't even put the effort in, so I sold it.
So what made you get a second? What made you go back and get one again?
Because of the fact that I didn't put much effort in the first one. So I bought a cheaper one because the first one I bought, I bought the $1,200 joint, right? Used it a couple weeks or a week at the most, sold it. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do things a little different this time. I had a little money sitting around, wasn't necessarily burning a hole in my pocket. I had my choices were to buy a new juicer or buy a drone. And my juicer works fine. It's just kind of janky, but it works, And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna treat myself, self-care. So I went around to a couple Best Buys because apparently I guess drones are still hot because I had to drive like 45 minutes one way to this Best Buy to pick this thing up. After the Best Buy that I was in, they claimed they had them online. I go into the store, different case altogether, right? So I decided this time I'm gonna be more consistent and I'm not going to spend much money. Well, I'm not going to spend as much money. I did end up spending a little bit because when you add the SD card and you upgrade to the nice controller, because the entry level ones make you attach your phone to the controller, so the phone acts as the display for whatever the camera sees. Well, the upgraded RC, the remote control part, has a screen in it. So I was like, I'll pay a little extra for that. Had to get the SD card. So while I didn't spend $1,200, I ain't spend $200 either. I'm like, all right, well, this time I'm going to be more consistent, air out some time, schedule out some time to actually learn how to do it. And then maybe that'll bolster my editing efforts. And then maybe, I don't know, somebody wants to do a family reunion. They want an aerial shot. Maybe I'll send them an invoice or something like that. I don't know, but we'll see. But I'm gonna be a little bit more.
I was about to ask, what was the plan? Like, did you have anything in mind to use it for, or just like an impulse buy?
Impulse buy, but a hobby. I've got a couple hobbies, but I don't need any more hobbies. But at the same time, this has always been a bucket list type thing. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna put more effort into it this time with the idea of it being a hobby. Now, if I get real good, and I feel confident that my editing is up to snuff, because some of those tremendous, outrageous aerial drone shots you see, they've color graded it and they've shaded it and they've done all the back end stuff, So it's like, all right, if I'm already playing around with video editing for the podcasts. Let me see if I can do some color grading, do something else. And if I get good at it, I may do the FPV drones, to where they make you put on the helmet, the glasses, the fast ones. I don't know if y'all have watched Drone, but they've got like drone sports. These guys put on the helmets and they got the controllers and they're looking through like they're actually flying it. And these things are for real. I'm like, I ain't gonna get that good, but I may upgrade and build my own drone. So that's the plan right now. I bought it on Saturday. Haven't used it yet because I've been so busy, man. I had to cut my grass. My kids, this last throes of summer, so took the kids to the swimming pool. Had to get a haircut, and then I drove all around the city to find it. So by the time I got it and got home, it's like, well, I ain't playing with it tonight because I'm tired. And the next day I had to mow the lawn, and then today got the podcast. So it's like, all right.
All right. Well,
one of these days.
So you haven't used it yet, but at least tell us, what model did you get?
It's a DJI Mini 3. So it's like last year.
Is it the Maverick Mini 3 or just Mini?
The Mavic are the ones that's like $1,200 and up.
Okay.
The minis are like the entry level
Okay.
versions. So they've got a mini 2 and they've got a mini 3. And then this year they've got the mini 4, which are all kind of like first year, second year, third year. So I've got the one in the middle. So that saved me a little bit of dollars on that end too.
My neighbor actually, I guess technically the word to say is has a FPV drone. That he got a good 16 minutes of flight time out of it before he flew it into the side of a side of a tree.
Those things those
Um,
things are small. They're small and they're
mhm.
fast. So you got to really like learn like piloting almost the yaw and all these technical terms to actually control those. This one, it's got all the sensors and all the stability. So all I got to do is take off, rotate it around, maybe go this way, maybe go this way, and then land. That's
Yeah.
about as much I get.
Well,
Yeah, because that would be my concern. It's like you crash into something. I mean, it's busted. It's probably cheaper just to buy a new it rather
well,
than
it
try
depends.
have one
It depends on
repaired.
how fast you're going. I'm not going to be going that fast, and this one I'm turning all the sensors on. So it's got like avoidance collision to where if you're going somewhere, I mean, if you're going towards something, almost like a some of these cars nowadays with the automatic braking and
Hmm.
it's the same thing. It's got automatic landing. So if you press a button, it'll land on its own, or you can try to land it yourself. I'm not doing that. You can take off
Mm.
on your own, or it's got a button to where it takes off and hovers. I'll be doing that version.
okay. Well, you will definitely have to report back and let us know how it goes. We're going to jump into some tech news, but before we do, want to let everyone know that you can support the Tech John by heading over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. Over there, we've got multiple tiers, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and after party. And also, there's a couple tiers over there where you get access to an ad-free RSS. So any one of those tiers, helps the show out quite a bit, so we can bring the tech to you the way that we bring it to you. And once again, if you'd like to become a patron, if you'd like to join up over there, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. So that being said, let's jump into your drone is a tech story. So that's tech story one. Well, let's go ahead and jump into tech story two. And we talk about social media and just how it's not good for kids, and it affects their mental health, and it does all these things, and how ultimately it looks like the government is going to regulate these companies. And it's news like this that makes you say, yeah, maybe the government really should regulate, because Google, they decided for good reason that, you know what, we shouldn't advertise specifically to children under the age of 18, to teens under the age of 18. This is a rule they set up. I want to say it goes all the way back to 2021. So it's been some years that they've decided not to do this, except for when they subvert their own rules and work around them. So what Google,
Say, except when they don't feel like
yeah,
it.
so what Google has done is they decided that, you know what, we could make a lot of money if we sell advertising to Meta, where Meta, we can on YouTube, we can advertise to teens and get them to go over to Instagram and create accounts for all the teens that don't already have them. And the big deal about this is what Google did was that they didn't specifically advertise to teens. They have a group of YouTube users that is undefined, but they
They call them
know
unknown.
that the majority of the people in these groups, or in this undefined group, are teens. So much so, they've actually had conversations with Meta about how effective it is to advertise to this group. So Google, against its own rules, decided to. I mean, Meta is in this. I mean, their culpability is that they paid Google to do it, but Google, against its own rules, is advertising to teens, even though their rules specifically state they will not advertise to teens 13 to 17 years of age.
And even now, they say, even with uncovering this secret deal between Google and Meta to usurp their own rules, Google still says, quote, "We prohibit ads being personalized to people under 18, period. These policies go well beyond what is required and are what's supported by technical safeguards. We've confirmed that these safeguards worked properly here because," and I quote, "no registered YouTube users known to be under 18 were directly
Mm.
targeted by the company. So basically, what they said was, well, technically speaking, since we didn't know for sure, for a fact, that this quote unknown group of YouTube users were under the age of 18, our rules still worked
Mhm.
because we didn't know, they weren't known to be under 18. But like Rob said, they've got enough data to know that those people were underage. So they figured that they would just do this, and then either one, nobody would notice, and two, their scapegoat was, well, technically, we didn't know they was under 18, which is kind of like just further the point that Rob said, that the internet, it could be a non-scrupulous place, especially for
It
teens.
sounds
It's
like
already damaging.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a lot of legal gymnastics to in that statement, especially when it comes to personalized. So they're basically saying they're not customizing it specifically for 13 to 17, but if you have products that you know based on market research that 13 to 17-year-olds like, and you put them in there, I guess technically that's not personalizing it. And the other thing you said was the known, users. So it sounds like they're doing some gymnastics there to make it seem as if we're still following our own rule technically, but at the end of the day, it's all about money. And Gen Z, this 13 to 17-year-old age group, they spend a lot of money, they have a lot of buying power, and Meta and Google are like, we need to get on some of that money too. We're not missing
Especially
out on any ducats.
especially for Meta, who is struggling to get youth folks on Facebook. So their whole end was, well, if we didn't pretty much lost the young generation on Facebook, but we can't get them with Instagram.
Mhm.
So we need to figure out what we can do to partner with Google rather, to figure out some YouTube triangle circle to get them YouTube users, those unknown group, get them to sign up for Instagram as well, because we can use it over there. So
Yeah.
they
What
figured,
makes
we'll do what we got to
what
do.
makes this so disingenuous on Google's part is that they're saying that we have a group that's labeled 13 to 17-year-olds. Well, we didn't advertise to that. We just advertised to this undefined group that, well, we know that it's mostly 13 to 17-year-olds. So much so that we use that in our marketing pitch to the companies that we are selling the advertising to. But technically, they're not 13 to 17-year-olds. They're undefined. So it's not a problem that we do this until we get caught. The Financial
Right.
Times, basically, they didn't just test this out a little bit. They ran this in Canada from May until, I want to say, I don't have my dates right. They ran it for some months in Canada. I want to say through May. Maybe it was February to May, and then in May they started running it in the United States. Until Financial Times contacted them and said, "Hey, we thought you didn't advertise to 13 to 17-year-olds, even though this data is showing that you are." "Oh, no, we don't do that. This is an undefined group, and we're going to stop doing that thing that we say we didn't do right now." So they literally stopped doing it. If it wasn't an issue, it's like this. You know how sometimes you'll walk in on a little kid doing something and they'll just freeze. That seems like what Google just did here. My question is, number one, why would you freeze when you walk into a room and kids are playing on Xbox and they're allowed to be on the Xbox? They don't freeze. They just keep playing the Xbox. But when they're not supposed to be on
Right.
it, that's when they freeze and try to throw the controller across the room like you didn't see them just on the game. And the other thing too is
Right.
that when you ask them what they were doing, it was like, not that thing you just saw me doing, because that's the thing that we don't do. Literally, Google is saying, you just caught us doing this thing, but we don't do the thing. And they said it with their chest. We do not advertise to 13 and 17-year-olds. It's like, well, clearly you do. You just got caught, and now you're trying to backpedal this. And my point earlier, this is why they're probably going to end up getting regulated on this stuff, because no one
Mhm.
trusts them.
Can't trust them. Can't trust them.
You
Yeah.
you you
You can't.
created your
They've already proven they can't be trustworthy. They have already proven that they will lie to your
yeah.
face because that's what they're doing.
How did Maya Angelou say it?
People show you who they are, believe it.
Exactly. It's like, if this is what the company is going to do, and then they get caught, I have no reason to believe that they're not doing something similar right now and just haven't been caught yet. It's just this one. If
Yeah.
I can't trust you, I can't trust you. So yeah, this one particularly bothered me because it's like, I don't want to say that I'm for government regulation because the government doesn't regulate most things, properly. I don't want to say not all things, but many things they don't. Something like the internet, it moves so fast. By the time they actually get rules in
Yeah.
place, those rules are old and antiquated. So I get that.
Yeah.
But when you are saying, well, you know what? This is such a problem. We're not going to do this thing because it adversely affects children, but we're going to find every loophole that we can to work around our own rules. The government at that point really has no choice but to come back and say, hey, you can't even police yourself. It's like, somebody's got to do this. If you're not going to do it for yourself, we're going to do it for you. And, I can't say I will feel bad about Google or for Google if that were to happen.
Nope.
Not at all.
So, y'all, just to change gears a little bit, this next story here is a little weird. It's a little crazy. It's kind of all over the place. But let me give you the headline: X sues major brands. Their ad industry group. The group is called GARM, which stands for I just had it written here: Global Alliance for Responsible Media. X has sued this group, saying that they have instituted an illegal boycott of their platform by a great many advertisers. And some of the weird things about this were, I don't know if either of you had the opportunity to look at Linda Yaccarino. Linda Yaccarino is the CEO
Well,
of
before
X.
that, before that, Rob, this is the same group of people that Elon Musk literally told in an interview, televised on a panel, they don't want to advertise on the show. They can go F
He didn't literally
themselves.
say it. He actually said it.
No, that's what I mean.
He
Literally,
actually said
literally
it. Yeah.
told them to go F themselves. Now he turned around and suing them.
Yeah.
Insane.
Basically, we don't need your money. We don't want your money because I'm Elon and I'm so great. And now he's like, wait a minute. I kind of
There's
need your
that
money
part.
now.
But essentially, what the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, what they have been doing is saying that because of misinformation and stuff like that, these are reasons that you as an advertiser may not want to be on this platform. And let's just be honest, since Elon Musk bought X, and took it over, now he's giving the reins to Linda Yaccarino. They have been losing advertisers hand over fist. They do not have as many advertisers today as they did yesterday, and they can do all types of spreadsheet stuff to say, oh, well, the number of advertisers is actually more. Yeah, but the number of dollars that they're giving you is way less, and that's ultimately what counts at the end of the day. So there's that is actually going on, but this actually harmed GARM to a great extent. 3 days after the lawsuit, they basically are no longer an entity. Now they're still going to fight this, but they are a nonprofit. So this is not like a money making entity, but it looks like that they've shut down after this lawsuit. So I'm wondering what's going to
Well,
ultimately happen
well,
from this. It's crazy that this is what they're getting sued for, especially when the owner of the company tells advertisers, if you don't want to advertise here, F you, essentially. But what do you guys think is going to happen?
well, no, I just wanted to talk about the shutting down of that group. I'm pretty sure that they pulled an Elon and decided to disband the group as to not have to be as concerned about the legality or being responsible financially via a lawsuit. Now, of course, going forward, but I'm pretty sure that they pulled an Elon and said, all right, you trying to sue our group? What if we're not a group no more?
But my thing is is that actually something real? Is it illegal to boycott? Is there even a such thing as illegal boycotting? Because in my mind, when I think of boycotting, I think of, we're standing up for our rights. You've done us wrong, and we're going to affect you where it hurts the most. And with most companies, it's the dollar, it's the bottom line. And so we're pulling back our efforts to support you. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not a legal scholar, but this whole idea or notion of an illegal boycott seems kind of foreign to me. that that you could boycotting something or choosing not to participate in something can be illegal, especially when it comes down to how businesses budget their marketing money. If I have $100,000 and I say, hey, I normally put my money in pot A, but now I don't like pot A anymore, so I'm going to go and put it in pot B. I don't know how they're saying that it's illegal to do that.
I am not 100% sure, but based on the few articles that I've read about this since it came out last weekend, or this past weekend, or I guess Friday, Thursday last week is when we first heard about this, was that they're suing them because the organization, I guess the argument is that they lobbied these advertisers to, hey, you really shouldn't be advertising with X. I don't know that changes anything that you just said, but I wonder if there are rules against that to where you can't go out. And it's one thing if you say, I am company X and I don't support this company any longer, and as long as they're doing these things, they will not get my advertising dollars. But if there is an entity that company belongs to that is saying, all of you companies, none of you should be doing this, you should all pull your money back. And then for reasons of, well, we don't want to be the only ones not doing it, that makes us look bad. So it's kind of one of those things to where maybe the company itself wasn't necessarily thinking about doing a boycott, maybe because all of their associated companies are doing it. It's kind of like, well, the group said that we shouldn't do it, therefore that's why, or should do it, that's why we're going to do it. I don't know. I don't know that holds any legal weight.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of the argument that I've heard is that, well, what's happening here is that you have the richest person in the world on paper, in a company that he owns, saying that we're going to sue this organization. And the case could be just thrown out of court and it not go anywhere. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but the problem for the organization is that we're going against infinite resources, and we are a nonprofit and don't have infinite resources. So a lot of times companies that get sued, they don't settle it because they're wrong. They settle it because they just can't afford to stay in court to fight the thing that they might be right about. So it's like, we fought it and we won, but I had to spend $30 million in legal fees. Or I could have we just disbanded, and our bad, we're no longer an organization, no harm, no foul, and kind of go away. And then they reconstitute themselves and, with another organization, with another acronym, and go back to doing the same business they were doing.
And to make matter, well, not to compound things, this may drive even more advertisers away. So there's also that too, because what it looks like is Elon is the big bad wolf. Like you mentioned, Rob is throwing a bunch of money at a problem or a concern to get it to turn in his favor. That will even maybe possibly get more advertisers like, yeah, that is icing on the cake. We was on the fence about advertising on X, but him being a big bully and got this whole group disbanded, and the reason why the group is in existence in the first place is to help brands avoid having their advertisements appear alongside illegal or harmful content.
Mm-hmm.
We already know Elon is letting that stuff fly on the internet, and on top of that, they're being they're being bullied by Elon Musk and bullied into non-existence. Oh, that's icing on cake. We pulling our money too.
There's that.
And it's not like these companies have a great incentive to be on the platform anyway. It just seems that they've kind of corralled this group to kind of be an overhead for all of it. But many of these companies had already decided to cut their budgets because the platform is not what it used to be since Elon bought it, and it's getting worse. So it's not as if these companies don't have a legitimate reason to not want to advertise on the platform. So I think he's just kind of throwing his weight around, his muscle around to say, see, I can bully you or, be the big bad guy. But I don't really think it's going to change too much that these companies are like, nah, we don't want to be on this, no way. So
they're suing Garm. You can't sue the company. Can you imagine that I don't want to do business with you anymore. So I get sued by you because you're not paying me any longer to provide a service that you didn't like. So I'm going to sue you because I should still get that money. It's kind of, that's what it sounds like to me. But the other part of this is that, Terrance, you said that one of the reasons that GARM is doing this is because, or one of the reasons that GARM put out their advisory that they're now being sued for is because X has a lot of content on there that advertisers may not want to have their branding next to. Mm-hmm. Well, who's the number one person putting this stuff out? Elon Musk is the number one X person. He has the biggest account on X. This dude just last week is saying, is putting out stuff. So, just last week he posted some stuff that he, turned around and had to pull down. It's like when the dude that owns the company
got to pull down his
own content. And we're not talking about something that happens once in a blue moon. This is like a regular occurrence where Elon Musk is, what do you call it? Is it re-Xing? Is it reposting? He'll repost something. We used to call that retweeting. He'll retweet something. Oh, that's fake. Let me turn around and pull that down. Well, dude, the damage is done if you've had 1 billion people see it.
He's using Twitter as his own personal blogging website to me, because everything around it, as far as features, enhancements, is all according to his usage or what he wants. That's why they kind of removed, you could see who likes what, because people are liking some shady stuff. And, it's one of those things where it's almost as whatever he wants the website to be for him personally, that's what he's, putting on everybody else, because it seems like it's very customized to his whims and his ideas of what, the platform should look like or how it should work.
So the really funny part of this whole debacle that's going down is not Elon, it's not even X. It is X's CEO, Linda Yaccarino. So she put out a video last week letting Earth know that they are now going to sue GARM. And the reason, well, it's kind of hard to say. I don't want to say she really gave a reason why they're doing it. That she let you know that the X is doing it. And as she's doing it, she's doing all of these weird hand gestures to where folks are saying, it's like, is she trying to sign or something like that? Is that a new version of sign language she's using? But and we've linked to the video in our show notes. So you can go check the show notes out. And actually, if you haven't seen the video, you can just take a look at our show notes, and pull the link from there. But it was so weird. It was so strange looking that the Daily Show did a parody of it. Now, this is what you would normally see something happen on Saturday Night Live. I actually said on Threads right after the video came out that I was surprised that Saturday Night Live didn't get to it, that it was actually the Daily Show that did it. I didn't realize that Saturday Night Live was on hiatus until the fall, so they just weren't able to get to it. But the video that the Daily Show did is someone who kind of looks like Linda Yaccarino, and just here are the other things that they talked about. They have like, they got a pre-version of another release that was going to be put out. And it is Tina Fey-ish, Tina Fey, what was the woman from Alaska that was, I cannot think of her name, that was the running mate of John McCain,
Sarah Palin.
If you just think of how Sarah Palin did those videos where she was actually, Tina Fey, I should say, was acting as though she were Sarah Palin. That's the level of this video. It is, they're very good. It looks like her. It is just the hand gestures that she was using were so weird and just out of place.
Well, it wasn't weird. It was just over descriptive.
It looked like she was being held hostage at gunpoint when she was delivering it. It just did not look like it was a comfortable delivery from her.
Yeah, well,
Elon was probably directing her, micromanaging. Put your hand like this, move your hand like that.
Yeah, she was using
directing her.
Yeah, she was using unnecessary hand gestures, to kind of further her point. But it's kind of like, all right, we didn't need you to show us visibly what you're trying to say. I can understand you. I get it. So that's probably where the Daily Show is like, all right, we're gonna kick it up a notch as they normally do.
Right.
Because a lot of times, I don't know if you noticed, but with certain people, they think that the hand motions or the facial expressions that it adds more credibility or weight to what they're saying, not realizing that it does the exact opposite. But I think in their mind, they think doing these things makes them seem more serious, or, you know, or it's almost kind of like self-aggrandizing, how it's like, I'm doing all this to show that you that, because people, when they're, politicians, they're pointing, or they're doing the thumbs
Hmm.
up, or they're doing all these things, it makes, I think they think it makes them look more in control, authoritative, or uh, you know, an expert, or whatever the case may be, not realizing that all of that extra stuff actually makes them look kind of
It
stupid.
does. And, some folks are just animated talkers, and that's just how they talk. I don't,
Yeah.
it's not like I have just scoured every single
And
press
that looks
release.
natural.
This
Yeah.
doesn't look natural. It looked like, oh, make sure I
Mm-mm.
raise my arm and point my finger and wag my hand.
Yeah.
It really looked like, for microseconds, she's thinking about the hand gesture that she's going to use for the words that she's saying. And that's what the
She
parody
probably
video,
rehearsed it that way.
yeah, that's what the parody video does. It's like, I mean, they're
Yeah.
just, it literally takes something that happened in real life and just takes it to the next level. It is absolutely hilarious. So I will give props to the Daily Show on that. I think, you had mentioned how this, she really didn't tell you what was happening. Terrance, you said that we don't need all the hand gestures to understand what it is you're saying. But the city of New York, they might need some hand gestures or something, when it comes to these drones that they're flying around the city to tell folks about. I guess, what is it, weather related
Well,
stuff
yeah,
that's coming up, and they're
yeah,
not
there
really
was a
doing that
flood.
Spanish too good.
Yeah, yeah. So they were doing a flood warning, and I guess the city of New York wanted to get the word out to as many people as possible. I'm assuming as fast as possible, because there's some people who will stay in their house. I've been living here for 30, 40 years. Ain't no storm ever scared me. I ain't leaving.
Mhm.
Some of those same people may have limited communications. So New York was like, all right, bet we need to figure out how to spread the word to as many people as possible, fast as possible. We got these drones sitting around. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put microphones on them, or I'm assuming it was a recorded speech. And they flew the
Mhm.
drones into a neighborhood and say, hey, this is the city of New York. We want to let you know flood warning is coming. Uh, uh, do what you got to do to stay safe, leave your house, whatever you got to do, stay safe. So since New York is a heavy multicultural place, it's probably got a large, and I'm probably underestimating, a large portion of Spanish speaking folks there. So, in addition to the English version that says get out or stay safe, call this number, yada, 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 then it turns right back around and tries to do it in Spanish. I don't know what they was doing, but I watched the Twitter video to where it says the regular thing in English, and then when it
Mhm.
gets to the Spanish part, it's like a broken AI, unnatural, weird kind of language that you would think like somebody with no Spanish whatsoever decided to create a quick AI voice memo. And I mean, it was just terrible. And it's almost like you almost had it. New York almost had a way to use current technology in a way that helps people, and they only got it 50%, because again, when it went to the Spanish part, it was like incoherent. It didn't make sense. I don't know Spanish, but when that thing started speaking in Spanish, I'm like, yeah, that's not Spanish
He's like,
at
that's not
No,
all.
it
Spanish.
was the funniest thing that I saw on this was somebody said that they basically used AI to train this thing to speak Spanish. The problem was that they
Uh-huh.
used the AI trained on Fred G. Sanford speaking Spanish to his Hispanic neighbor back from the Sanford and Son days. And I'm
Mhm.
dating myself, but if anybody has ever watched Sanford and Son when he thinks he's speaking Spanish, that's what this drone sounded like. And it was some kind of terrible. It,
And I don't understand
And you
why they
can't
couldn't
tell
just.
me.
I was gonna say, can't understand why they didn't just grab somebody. Hey, you Spanish, come here, read this thing in this recorder so we can put it on this drone. They ain't even do that. It's like, why even? It's just like a so unnecessarily cut corner, which is just doesn't make any sense.
That's exactly what I was about to say. You can't tell me in the city of New York there isn't somebody who speaks Spanish in the whole entire city of New York that you couldn't have just said, "Hey, can you just read this real quick?"
I would have
Thanks.
to guess that in the city of New York, there are probably millions or close to it. You know, if not over
Right.
the number of a million, there's got to be close to, a million Spanish first speakers in that city, let alone the whole state of New York.
Yeah.
This was a miss, and the director for the program said it was a miss, that we've got to be better than that. But I'm just thinking, it's like there are
Who
there are
okay
parts of New York that are called like Little Havana. That, I mean, you couldn't find a Cuban or a Puerto
Spanish
Rican
Harlem?
or a Mexican or someone from the Dominican Republic. I mean, there's all these communities that are there that are, they speak Spanish first in the community. You couldn't find anybody. That there's no
Yeah.
way that
It's somebody in that office
somebody's
that speaks
exactly
Spanish
that. It's like
that could have
you
done it.
couldn't
I
ask
mean,
anybody.
yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't call this a miss. I would just call it lazy. New York City mayor. The
Oh,
idea
yeah,
came
he's
from New
horrible.
York. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. I was like, oh, okay. So the guy who normally New York Mayor Eric Adams normally has some weird slash questionable governorship or mayorship of New
Hmm.
York. It's like this. All right, I got it. We're going to send drones to areas as like a mobile PA system. And we're
Mhm.
going to go out and let these. And I'm like, all right, bet I would have signed up for that. We talked about it at the top. I'm brother drone now. This is like a dope. This would be something I would have came up with. I'd have been like, all right, here's what we got. We're going to send these drones to these areas real quick so we don't have to send a car because it's weather. We don't want to send nobody down there to get stuck. We're going to send this word out. And of course, now people will say, well, how come you couldn't send them a text message or whatever? I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But having a drone fly over, that draws attention. People are going to stop what they're doing to look up and say, oh, there's this drone. I wonder what they're doing. And then it comes out and says, yo, get out of there. Weather's coming. That's a great idea. But then it's just like you got 75% there and then drop the ball on the
Yeah.
rest. And of course, that little 25% is what the whole internet
Yeah,
Overshadows
draws.
you're right.
everything.
And I am certain that Eric Adams is like, y'all have got to be kidding me. I finally do
Right.
something right. And this is how it gets rolled out.
I get an easy win and you still mess it up.
Yep.
Wow. It is just like, because it's like, how hard is it to get someone to record a
In New
message
York.
in Spanish? You're in New York.
Mhm.
Not
You're
hard at all.
in New York. I mean, New York is not LA. It's not, it's not Arizona. It's not Texas. But man, New York City, there's a lot of Spanish speakers there. A lot of Spanish
Mhm.
Probably
speakers
the
there.
most multicultural city in at least this country.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
so many. Like I said,
So
and it's all different kinds of Spanish that you want. Like I said, you can, there's
yeah,
all kind of Latinos in New
whatever
York.
flavor Spanish you want, they got
Right.
it.
So
And it would be one thing if the regular English version was kind of choppy and
Mm,
incomprehensible too because of communications to the drone or the speaker wasn't big enough or loud enough on the drone
mhm.
to where we couldn't understand it because it's a tiny drone, it's up in the air and yada yada yada. But the English part perfectly fine. The Spanish part was just like, what is? Don't even
yeah,
try. Didn't even
I mean,
try.
They phoned that
they
in real
really
quick.
did, and it's one of these things to where the English version didn't sound like AI; it just sounded like a recorded message. Why
Mhm.
not just do the recorded message in Spanish? I mean, that to me would have been the easiest thing. If they are using AI to do a translation, well, that's kind of stupid for the thing you were doing it for. It's like you have all these Spanish speakers that probably worked on the program. I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking about New York City here. There's a good chance that people who are working on the program speak Spanish, and you couldn't get any one of them to actually get in front of a microphone and record, or go hire somebody to record. So yeah, that
Again, who signed off on this?
Right, right.
Because this had to be run through a couple different levels,
Mhm.
and a couple different people had to listen to this. Who said, you know what? That's the take we want.
Mhm.
Go with that
yeah,
one.
somebody does not sound like they are long for their job at this organization.
At all.
It just doesn't sound like it, because this is just kind of ridiculous. But it really is. It's like that is something you could so easily do if you're just not lazy. Let's just Let's just go listen to make sure that the message is on point. Somebody, as you're saying, Nika, somebody had to sign off on it. Somebody said, "Oh yeah, this is good."
This is what we want.
Whoever that is, I'm willing to bet they probably are freshening up their LinkedIn about right now.
Yeah.
So y'all, the last main story that I had to talk about today was one it's not a brand new story, but it's something that I've heard mentioned. Somebody mentioned it to me earlier today. I heard it mentioned over the weekend and, a couple times last week that black podcast listeners are on the rise. That we, as African Americans, particularly, I actually didn't say African Americans; it said black. So black podcast listeners in the United States is up over 10% from last year, and 46% of black listeners have listened to their first podcast within the last calendar year. So I'm thinking about that. It's like that's almost half of black folks who have listened to a podcast. Almost half, 46%. Have just listened in the last calendar year. That's kind of impressive to me. I if you would have asked me, I would have figured their numbers weren't necessarily on par with other demographics, but I wouldn't have figured that few have listened before the last 365 days. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, it looks like a lot of the podcasts that are on the rise amongst black groups is small business owners. So, small business owner, launches a podcast to kind of, and that's in their field of expertise or whatever their business specializes in. Another one is sports, music, and religion and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm surprised about is relationship podcasts is not the top of these black listeners, because I am getting tired of these podcasts with these brothers and sisters arguing about dating and relationships and 50-50 and splitting the bill and
$200 dates
yeah,
and
all that stuff that you see on Twitter,
yeah.
all these little conversations that they are started or originate on somebody's podcast. And I see the trope going around to where we need to black people, it need to be illegal for some black people to buy podcasting equipment because of some of the nonsense that is being spreaded around as gospel from these relationships. But that was just a little aside, but it's just, I can definitely tell that more people are listening and more of us are creating content now. The creation of the content and the quality, we ain't talking about that right now, but it is on the rise and I can definitely see it.
Yeah. I think this most surprising, statistic of this is that almost half, this is their first time listening within the last year. I think that's probably the most surprising to me. But, as you just said, Terrance, the whole relationship thing, especially among the like millennial Gen Z demographic.
Yeah, them 20s and 30s.
This 20 and early 30s.
Yeah, this is what they're on. And it's just like, again, I've seen the memes about, it needs to be an application process for black people, creating podcasts, or they need to make the microphones $20,000 so it will, discourage some people, because it is, the discourse around it can be horrible. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's great that more people are getting involved in it, but then on the other hand, some of the quality of the content is just not great.
I was side-eyeing this article the whole way. I was like, please don't let this turn into relationship podcast, because I cringe at a lot of the content that's out there. Now, I'm gonna be the first one to say, if that's your lane and you making $1 doing it, and that's the kind of conversation you like to have, I'm not gonna be that old man get off my yard with podcasting on that. That is not for me, and I would imagine it is not for y'all. But it's so old. It's like some of these
well, so it's one thing.
So caustic. It's like, what's going on here?
Right. So it's one thing to say, you know what? I'm not really into sports. So I'm probably not going to listen to a lot of sporting podcasts, or religion is important to me. I only listen to my specific people, my specific group, or whatever the case may be. So I'm not going to listen to a bunch of podcasts. With relationships, well, with those other two, sports, yeah, there's some debates that can happen. Sports, but most of it is like, all right, Steph Curry, as a fact, helped the United States men's basketball team win the gold over the weekend, right? That's a fact. Now you can argue whether Steve Kerr, since that's Steph Curry's coach, he, yada yada yada. You can argue all that, but the fact remains: Steph Curry helped the U.S. men's basketball team ice France to win gold, right? You can't.
Yep.
With relationships,
There's no denying it. Yeah.
there's no denying. With relationships, you come out the gate with wrong information
Out the gate.
about
Yeah.
right.
Just
So,
wrong.
like you said,
Like you don't even
Rob,
have no facts to back that up.
right? Like Rob, you said, it's toxic. It's one thing to just to debate a fact, right? It's a whole nother thing that's just toxic. Now, that's not
Yeah.
all of them. Again, there are a bunch of
But it's a lot of them.
So
right. There are a bunch of decent podcasts out there with folks that look like us that spread good information supporting yada yada yada. But maybe it's just a squeaky wheel gets the oil, because all I see is the
So we
madness.
say this on this show all the time. Black folks are not a monolith, and you cannot just
Definitely
because
not.
one group
Definitely
of
not.
people is into something that all groups, all members of that group are into the same thing. That being said, this has happened to me. I am a podcaster. I've been doing this for a long time, but there are times when I will tell, and this is particularly when I'm telling other Black women, oh yeah, I'm a podcaster. They will give me the side eyes, like, seriously, for real, that's what you're doing? It's like, I thought you was married. I'm not that kind of podcaster. I talk about tech, and I talk about, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. Oh, okay. And then like the shoulders will go down and the guard drops a little bit when I let them know that I am not out here with the red
You're not a
pill, blue
relationship
pill,
podcaster.
relationship podcasting, popping balloons,
Incel
none of that kind of
podcaster.
stuff. Where I'm going to basically make a battle of the sexes with Black men and Black women.
Yeah.
That ain't what I'm doing. But it's kind of like I have to describe what I do that is not that before I get the, oh, okay, tell me about what it is that you do, because this stuff is horrible out there. It's like, why are y'all battling each other over this stuff?
Bad.
So,
because it drives engagement.
Really
It's
That's what
like
it does.
engagement
It absolutely
farming.
does.
They take topics from Twitter that they see are the most popular, and they go and record an episode about it or build a whole show around it,
And it
because they know
works.
that that's what's going to get the engagement,
And it
because
works.
people can't just not say, you know what, that's stupid.
And go on about
That's not based in
business.
fact.
Nope.
I'm going to keep doing something else. They have to go and they have to state their case,
And comment.
then it's like back and forth.
Yeah.
It's engagement farming, and that's how they get the clicks. That's how they get the likes.
I can only tolerate 10 to 12 seconds of that stuff at a time. So I can't even really tell you what a lot of these videos are, because as soon as I realize what they are, next, swipe, whatever, get to the next.
They got to look. So when I see it, I don't have the auto play turned on. I could most of the time tell, just based on the screenshot of the visual, what it's going to be about. And I was like, you know what? I could be wrong. It could be something really great, but I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to go into the next thing.
But that being said, Black podcast listenership is on the rise. And like I said, what really shocked me, 46% have listened in the last year. It's like, what was y'all doing during the pandemic?
Yeah.
That
was a shock,
because that's when that's when the resurgence in podcasting, that we definitely have already hit that peak and are kind of receding from that. But it's like, if we are just in the last calendar year getting to the point to where this large number of I keep saying African Americans because the article didn't say that, it said Black. So there's a large number of Black podcast listeners that have just become podcast listeners in the last year. Like, what was y'all doing during the pandemic when this stuff was popping off? But I'm here for it. I'm a Black podcaster, and although we have shows that cater to anybody who wants to listen, I'm all for Black folks listening to podcasts more, because it's like I love podcasting. Thing that I think is fun. So, y'all, before we wrap this show up, we've got a couple of shout outs to do. We have a new patron. So I want to give a shout out and flowers to James M, who became a patron, I believe, about 3 days ago. And James said he didn't have time to deal with doing that every month thing. He just went ahead and did a whole year up front. So
Okay.
Okay.
that has happened. We've actually had folks who have asked for that, so we did turn that on. But no, we appreciate that. Like he's rocking with us for an entire year, right off the bat. So once again, James, you get your flowers today. Thank you for supporting the show. And once again, anyone else who would also like to support the show, you can do so by becoming a patron. Head over or becoming a patron. Head over to patreon.com/thetechjohn or thetechjohn.com/Patreon. Either one of those links work. There's multiple tiers over there. We also want to let folks know that we have got a store. So if you were to head over to shop.thetechjohn.com, you will find all kind of swag. There are t-shirts and hoodies and hats and mouse pads and all those kind of things over there that have our logo on it. If you would like to become a supporter of the show by just getting some swag that you can wear and maybe have conversations where you tell folks about the show, you can do that. So head over to shop.thetechjohn.com or thetechjohn.com/shop. Either one of those links will work. So with that, Nika Monfort, Tech Savvy Diva, thank you for joining us and sitting in for Stephanie while she's away on vacation. Why don't you tell folks how they can get at you?
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva pretty much everywhere on the internet. And again, thanks for having me. It's always good being on with you guys.
No problem, no problem. You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I do want to shout out Snob OS. That is, Terrance. He says it every now and again, but that's your podcast too. So I want to let folks know that they can get you at the Snob OS cast. For folks who like Apple stuff, go listen. They, drop nuggets over there. Nika is regularly correcting Terrance on things. So go listen. And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we are also at the Tech John on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.
Peace.